the graphic off to my right. Let it sink in. Because after you find out the parameters of this particular study in regard to SM70EE, which you see on the chart right there, which is Spirulina, maxima, 70% ethanol extract, which before I proceed, the researchers were kind enough to show exactly how they produced this particular extract itself, which we'll cover towards the end. So you see SM70EE. That's the Spirulina group, and that's the placebo group. And this study was tight. This was a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled clinical trial. Look at the significant outcome of the results. Visual working memory test, the visual learning test, vocabulary, and the total antioxidant capacity. Now, are you ready for this? This is where it gets truly breathtaking. These results were achieved. And again, this is a very well conducted study. These results were achieved with a mere 1 gram of Spirulina maxima for 12 weeks per day. I'm going to reiterate, 1 gram of Spirulina maxima, 70% ethanol extract per day. That is it. For the short duration of just 12 weeks. Now, there's going to be some hypothesis by the researchers of why these results were so astounding and how it may have done what it did accomplish. Now, keep in mind too, also, I'm going to repeat, randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled. The researchers, as well as the patients or the study group, did not know who was taking what. So that gives you an idea of the significance of this particular outcome. Just 12 weeks. And these individuals too, before I proceed, were all individuals with mild cognitive impairment. So MCI. Now, we did conduct this review back in February 2022, and that was basically reference to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. And that was a review of other published scientific studies, many of them pilot. The study that we're looking at today was directly on mild cognitive impairment and its effect with 1 gram of Spirulina maxima for a 12-week period of time. So with that in mind, let's get right into the research itself. And also towards the end, the researchers, again, were kind enough to basically list how they manufactured this Spirulina maxima 70% ethanol extract. So I'll be there. And also, I'm going to give you a brief look at the hypothesis of why they think this may have been so successful in achieving these results. Now, the interesting part is it did not affect amyloid beta levels at all, or not so statistical significance, all in one word, basically on its own. But still just the same, that's what makes it more amazing. So let's get right into the research as follows. The effects of Spirulina maxima extract on memory improvement in those with mild cognitive impairment, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial. Please forgive me as well. I'm just going to narrate right through the abstract because it was laid out clearly and eloquently. So why change it? To proceed, Spirulina maxima is a marine microalgae that has been promoted worldwide as a superfood. This study was conducted to evaluate its ability to improve memory in the older adults using Spirulina maxima 70% ethanol extract. The randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trial comprised of 80 volunteers recruited from a university. Please forgive me, my pronunciation would not be appropriate or good or well. And Republic of Korea, who were randomly assigned to 2 groups. The participants received either 1 gram a day of the Spirulina maxima or a placebo without otherwise changing their diet or physical activity. The participants were examined at baseline and after a 12-week interval to determine whether there were changes in the results for visual learning, visual working memory, and verbal learning tests from the Korean version of the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor and beta amyloid levels and total antioxidant capacity were also measured. Compared to the placebo group, the treatment group showed a significant improvement in visual learning and visual working memory tests and enhanced vocabulary. SM70EE Use was shown to improve memory with no adverse effects. No adverse effects. How many medications that are designed to help with cognitive impairment can say the exact same thing with these results? Which is probably why it wasn't in any public releases. I actually had to look at the full study itself. But proceed. With no adverse effects, its efficacy in alleviating Alzheimer's disease was verified for the first time through this clinical trial. That's why it's very important I basically emphasize that this is a clinical trial directly for these results in this particular outcome in regard to MCI. All right, briefly. And for those on YouTube, this gives some time. It'll basically render in 4K, which you'll be able to read this appropriately. Gives you an idea of their hypothesis onto why it did what it did without affecting amyloid beta levels. Those on TikTok, you may have to squint. All right, to proceed, toward the bottom. Therefore, the study showed that the consumption of SM70E did not significantly change amyloid beta accumulation in the plasma patients with basically mild cognitive impairment. Now, going down to the full study, because it's all that was published as a full study, the 12-week supplementation with Spirulina maxima, just for short, was shown to be valid and safe. Now let this sink in. Therefore, the significant findings of this study suggest that Spirulina maxima, 70% ethanol extract, supplementation in patients with mild cognitive impairment with MCI with memory disorders is safe and can play a role in the prevention and management of Alzheimer's disease, AD. To conclusion, the study was the first clinical trial to evaluate the efficacy and safety of Spirulina maxima extract for improving memory function and was conducted using a 12-week randomized double-blind test and placebo-controlled clinical trial. Spirulina maxima intake effects of the CNT results, which is the primary validation indicator, showed statistically significant differences between the visual leading test and the visual working memory test. Moreover, as confirmed by the secondary validation per the MOCA-K, basically, the vocabulary results show a statistically significant difference between groups. Spirulina maxima, 70% ethanol extract, ingestion was determined to be safe for the human body because no clinically significant adverse reactions or physical changes were observed. Therefore, the improvements of memory function activity by Spirulina maxima ingestion was the first confirmed in a clinical test. In patients with early Alzheimer's disease, such as mild cognitive impairment, confirmed that continuous intake of Spirulina maxima, 70% ethanol extract, could show improvement in memory function through improved visual, memory, and vocabulary. So again, you have to let that sink in. Think about this. This was just a mere 12 weeks at a minuscule 1 gram of Spirulina maxima 70% ethanol extract per day. Now, this is a wonderful study, but yet still you want to see some confirmation in the future. But with an outcome like this, and with basically MCI, mild cognitive impairment from dementia, Alzheimer's, and so on and so forth, at epidemic levels, research like this really should take a front seat. Why this study was not published in more public journals per se is beyond me. But if you want to reduce the cost of prescription drugs and things along those lines, then elements which have a natural factor, which are very inexpensive to produce, and the world of microalgae is incredible. You talk about solving many of the world's problems between fuel, food, and so on and so forth. It is the answer to a magnitude of issues per se. But that's beside the point. Then what you have to do is you have to alleviate what we call regulatory capture. So basically, if something's safe, effective, and well-tested and proven, then it should be able to compete on the open market fairly, as well as basically be covered by the medical plans per se. But that's publisher bias, and my hope for the rest of the world. But to proceed, the outcome: 1 gram Spirulina maxima, 70% ethanol extract, 12 weeks. These results. What more can you say? Again, gratitude to the researchers. As always, I am humbled you watch, and I look forward to see you all once again next week. This is just breathtaking. All right, catch you all next time.